Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the middle after dark over here.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 53 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. Or two guys, or three guys, or two guys, or three guys. This is for those of you that are watching on YouTube. You'll understand what we're doing there. It's good to be back with all of you. For episode 53, it's good to be back with my friends and brother. And yeah, we're just going to do a round of updates. And
Is that a fat joke? Am I multiple people?
it was weird because I said friends and brother as if he's not a friend. You know what I mean? You guys take over. I'm dying up here.
The really long hook on the set. I don't know which direction you are, but like pull you off stage with the really long old-timey hook thing. Yeah, so updates. I think, was it like last episode that I said we were going to binge Downton Abbey, or 2 episodes ago?
Yeah. I think you've talked about it for like 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah,
Awesome.
We're all done now. I won't talk about it any more than if I've talked about it and like totally covered it. But other than to just say, yeah, fantastic. We finished the show. We watched the movie. And I think once we wait a few more days at least, we're going to jump into The Crown because my wife and I haven't watched all of The Crown. I've seen the first season, but ready for another period drama. So, yeah, everyone else that's watched Downton Abbey, which is the whole world, is like, yeah, it's good. We knew that like 6 years ago, but I just figured that out. So that's where I am.
Do you feel like it lived up to people's hype, or do you feel like it was a little less than?
It did. Normally, I think people hype things too much, because one thing that's kind of become a little bit of a pet peeve that we could save for another episode, but it relates too well to this. One thing that bothers me a little bit when people are like, hey, I want show recommendations. Now, granted, the asker on social media should be more specific, but then everyone just blurts out whatever they happen to be watching and then says it's amazing. Nobody stops and asks, like, hey, what are the shows that you've really, really enjoyed in the past? And I might be able, as somebody who watches a lot of things, I might be able to recommend some things similar. Instead, it's just all over the board. So, like, I can't even ask that question because nobody ever asks follow-up questions as to what I enjoy already. So it's kind of a pet peeve. But anyways, this is one a lot of people recommended that did live up to the hype. It was very good, super interesting. And I think Kory, you had mentioned it, that it's the social, it's like everything hanging in the social balance between these classes is really interesting, because we don't really have that here. Like, if the Duck Dynasty dudes show up at a fancy hotel, no one cares. Like, there's no class system. They can go into the Ritz-Carlton and get the nicest room, and everyone's going to wait on them and nobody cares. We don't really have that. So it's interesting watching that sort of unfold, plus 100 years ago. So yeah, super, super good. It definitely lived up to it.
It's funny you use that example, though, because I actually listened to the Duck Dynasty Guys podcast, and I think it was Jace was actually asked to leave one of Trump's hotels.
Okay, generally speaking.
And then Trump found out about it, and I guess he knows Phil, and they later apologized, and then had the whole family come back, and they treated him first class and gave him the nicest suite and blah blah blah. But yeah, I think Jace was asked to leave.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of that
for the most part.
But generally speaking, there's no system where it's like, oh, well, you grew up the son of a parent who had this job. I'm sorry, you're not good enough to do this thing.
Yeah.
And so it was super good. I will spend more time on it. I was the last person on earth to see it that had a TV, so we don't have to talk about it.
I've not seen. So is it done now, or are you just like caught up?
It's done. So I think the show ended 4 or 5 years ago, and then
wow.
they just had a movie that came out that is streaming. So we finished the whole series and immediately watched the movie. So I guess if you hadn't seen the movie yet, you wouldn't be entirely caught up. But the show ended years ago.
Okay.
Which is what started this whole thing, right? Because you had asked social media, should I watch the show before watching the movie? And everyone, it was a resounding, you can't watch the movie.
Yeah, minimum 20 comments that were all like, you really should watch the show first before you watch the movie. And so because we were thinking, can we bypass this whole phenomenon since we're already this far behind? Can we just watch the movie and get a sense of, oh yeah, it's really good. We feel like we've kind of seen it now, which I'm glad we didn't. We watched the whole thing and it was definitely worth it. So yeah, that's really the only thing that I've been doing.
You got through that pretty quickly though. That's a pretty good pace.
You did. Well,
you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah. Well, each season is like 7, 8 episodes. So
those are short seasons.
Yeah, so there's like 50 episodes total. So
okay.
If you can watch a couple a night like you're watching a movie, you can burn through it pretty fast.
Yeah, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, this isn't the American season.
My judgment has been
48-minute episodes, and there's 24 episodes a season, and you've got 9 seasons to watch. This is quality British television where they only make episodes when it's well done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the Brit TV, like what did I hear? Like British TV, it doesn't matter how awesome a series is. It's like 5-6 years and it's gone. That's just the way it goes there.
Yeah,
that's the expectation. There is no expectation that there's going to be a long haul for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and frankly, if you get any more seasons after the first one or second, you're lucky to get it.
Yeah.
So it'll be well done. The running joke with shows like Sherlock and Luther and some of those shows that have been on for a while that you might go years between seasons because they'll release it when there's quality stuff to release. You also don't have a lot of the British TV shows. You don't have the incredibly good-looking 30-year-olds that are in every like key role. It's the best actors and actresses. So you don't have I'm a new beat cop, but he drives up in this like $80,000 car and whips his hair back because he just got back from the best cut in town, but he's a beat cop and he's the new guy. Mm-hmm. There's none of that doesn't exist.
Well, congratulations. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you finally watched it because it was a show that while I was watching it, you were one of the people that I'm like, Dillon would really like this show.
Yeah.
Kendall, what's up with you, my man?
Guess a really quick thing that I ran into in recent weeks has been a YouTube channel or a guy on YouTube called Leonardo Torres. And if anybody has seen been scrolling through YouTube and saw like a non-Christian reacts to Oceans from Hillsong United, that video in particular has become very popular. It's him. He's the guy. He's the non-Christian guy responding to that. And what's been really cool about, so like I came across that video. I watched that video. And then over the course of the next several days, I watched like another dozen of his videos. And what the guy's a musician, and he has become something of a music critic, not professionally, but just like he had a friend who was releasing something on Spotify and had asked had put like feelers out there. Does anybody want to listen to this and critique it? And he was a fan of this person anyway. And so he raised his hand and so he listened to the files and left some pretty detailed notes. And then that guy was like, dude, you totally should be a music critic. And so he started this YouTube channel during COVID. So he's like fresh and new to YouTube. And but with that Hillsong United Oceans reaction thing, it just kind of exploded. And so this is a guy who talks about how he's a fan of pretty much all things music. That there isn't a genre, including CCM stuff, that he stays away from. He likes it all, and so it's just been really cool and uplifting for me, like as a Christian. Then, like watching this non-Christian reaction and listening to him critique these songs. Like, first of all, like the guy is just amazing. Like you could, anybody I think could watch these videos and think, man, I want to sit down on the couch and like talk to this guy, because he seems like he'd be really cool to hang out with. He's really nice. Every song, it's like 4 or 5 stars out of 5 stars. Like, he just loves everything. But what's been really amazing to me is a couple things. One is, so take that song Oceans, for example. It's a song that like myself and other worship leaders and teams have been playing for a very long time. And sometimes those songs, they start to wear on you, like they start to wear down a little bit. And and I don't know exactly what that is, if that's a good thing or a bad thing or just a reality, but watching him listen to that song and react to it and get emotional through it and pointing out like little things and being blown away by how the drums came in and things like that, like re-excites me for this song that like I had heard a billion times. and it's been really fresh and fun to like, it's like you're hearing these songs again for the first time. It's been really amazing. I think that's part of the big pull that he has had with these. And I tell you, like from a Christian perspective, like watching these things and like watching him kind of like unfold through them, like you can kind of see a little bit of him change, and his sort of reactions are getting stronger and stronger. And so it's hearsay, but like I'm convinced that there is spirit moving in him, like through this project of his. And so that's been kind of fun to think about and see as well. The other thing too that I like about it is for me, for somebody, I've talked about how like I've never been one to pick and choose songs off of an album. I've always been, I always buy the full album, because I feel like there's real art and intention that goes into putting an album together and deciding what goes in and where it goes. And a lot of them very explicitly have a story to them beginning to end, and you have to listen to the whole album to get it. And so that's just the way I've always rolled. When I listen to music, I tend to start with track 1 and I will listen to it for a while. So for me, listening to music is never just a background thing. For me, it's always, this is what I'm going to sit down and do for a while. And like, that's what I do. Like I listen and I pay attention to how the drums came in and I see what happened there and the intention behind it. And there's levels. Like I'll listen to it several times and it can take 2 or 3 times before I even pay attention to what the words are. And so there's part of me too that like likes that likes to see this guy like really listening to the emotion in a song, in ways that I'm familiar with, and kind of like showing that to people. I feel like it's almost like a gift that other people can get. That's like, man, you could experience music in a way different from how you've experienced. You can consume it in a way that is more artful, and it's kind of just like sharing that skill, I think, with the world, or sharing that passion with the world, and in a way, hopefully inviting some people into it. So
that's super cool. What's the guy's name? Because we need to share that video for YouTube.
Leonardo Torres Music is the name of the channel.
We'll share specifically the Oceans reaction video, since that's the one that kind of made him popular. That's really cool, though.
Follow-up question there. Do you think maybe it's a combination? Is it his physical reaction? Is it that he's finding things that are unique? Is it how he describes what he's hearing? That really articulate? What is it that you can pinpoint that stands out about him critiquing it?
Just he's a very emotional guy, and so like you can Like you hear a guitar riff come in instead of him just going, "Oh, that was cool." Like a guitar riff comes in and you get a and tears coming down the face.
Yeah.
And it's almost more fun to watch him than it is to like listen to what he says. It's you could see him emotionally feeling the song.
That's cool. So I can so relate to you because I discovered these reaction videos are really popular on YouTube. And I discovered a vocal coach. Tara Simon Studios is hers, and I may have talked about this on the podcast before, but she's specifically a vocal coach. So you guys know I like vocal performers. I like singers, and so she picks apart vocal performances, and people send her ones that they want her to react to. So typically, it's somebody that is known for, like Arnel Pineda, the new lead of Journey, right? Who sounds a lot like Steve Perry. Like they'll send exceptional vocal performers. And you don't know where she stands with her faith or anything, but someone sent her a gospel singer named Tamala Mann. And I'll share this video as well. But it's Tamala Mann singing the song Change Me. And it's just, she does all these crazy runs. And it's one of those long, drawn-out phrasing. And she has to pause the video multiple times and, like, get the goosebumps off of her arms.
Yeah.
She's just so feeling the performance. And the reason I like her is because a lot of people will say, I really like that vocalist, but they don't know why. Or they can tell they have really good control of their voice, but they don't know what it is about their performance. And she'll go, do you hear how she switched from a head voice to a chest voice to a head voice again, all so fluidly? And you're like, oh, that's why I like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool to hear any expert in any field break down and talk about others doing that thing, because you feel like you're learning and enjoying it at the same time. So maybe that's why those reaction videos are so fun and so popular.
Part of the reason I asked, I think it was the last episode on 52, I referenced the show Somebody Feed Phil, that season 3 had just dropped on Netflix. And he's by no means an expert on any cuisine and doesn't claim to be, but him specifically, his reactions are so over the top and genuine. It's just sweet to watch him react. You can't help. At first, it almost feels obnoxious if you've never watched any of it before. But the more you watch it, the more genuine it is. And you just enjoy watching him react to the pure joy of whatever food he's trying.
He's such an affable guy. You just want to hug him. And
yeah.
At first,
sweet.
Yeah. And he actually liked our post on Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. I think we tagged him on the episode post.
Yeah.
But
so thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. That's exactly right, though. It's like,
yeah, longtime friend of the show.
You can enjoy, Phil Rosenthal. You can enjoy people for different reasons, but part of that is getting that with yours, Kendall, of the emotional reaction. But then when they can also actually articulate exactly what it is they're experiencing, then as because I'm not a chef, I don't know. So if Phil went on a long tangent about why the dish was spectacular, I probably wouldn't appreciate it anyways. But as a musician, you can appreciate the extra layers of him articulating, what he sees in the music. And then and same with Kory and vocal stuff. Like that's just an extra layer with you both already having those backgrounds.
It makes such a big difference when, like you said, Kendall, it's somebody that you would like, oh, I'd like to hang out with that guy. I used to get that feeling about Mike Rao and Dirty Jobs. Like, he's so genuinely interested in the people he's interviewing and getting to do their job for a day that even the way he looks at them when he's listening to them, it just feels like he's so sincerely interested in learning about their story and their job and what they do. People are sick of hearing us talk about Joe Rogan, but that's, I think, one of the reasons why we like Joe is that he seems to be genuinely interested in the conversation and the topic and where it's going. So, yeah, that's cool. We'll have to share those videos.
Indeed. Also, I found out this week, so just one more update. Not found out, but I've been pleased and delighted that I've been able to teach my little 4-year-old girl that farts are hilarious.
because they are, and always.
And so that's been fun. She, man, I'm gonna pull this episode up on her 18th birthday and play this for her. She farts a lot. And I mean, I've got 2 boys, and she's the farter, and I fart a lot, and and so it's like my wife just like always like looks at the 2 of us. Anyway, because like I can't not laugh when she farts, because it's just like it's so like that came out of such a precious, sweet little girl, and then that happened.
Do you say fart in your house?
No, we don't. We say toot.
Yeah, we say toot also. And for a while, because it was 2 girls for a long time, I would say, girls don't fart, they butt sparkle.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, from a movie I stole from somewhere. But
so
yeah,
but now like I've like I did this like for the first time a few weeks ago. Like we were just like all sitting in the family room, and she lets one rip, and it was a loud one. And and I just look over to her and I said, "What did you say?" Like I tried to do that dad joke kind of thing with her, and she didn't get it. And so like I kept playing along with it. It took a few minutes for her to finally realize what it was I was talking about. And she was like bashful, but thought it was kind of funny that I was playing this trick on her. And so now like she has learned now. So if I'm in the room and she toots, like she'll look at me and she'll wait for it. And it wants me to do it. And then like just a few days ago, it was just my wife and myself and her, where it was just the 3 of us in the room, and she's lying on the floor and goes to stand up and lets off like this 3-second long loud fart. And at the same time, I lit one out too. And I kid you not, it was the same duration. It was the same
Did you guys
timbre.
harmonize?
It was the same timbre. It was the same type of fart. Like it was.
It's a special moment, you guys.
My little girl and I, and we just looked at each other, and neither one of us could stop laughing. It was.
That's so cute.
So. I'm a proud father.
You should be. That's a big step in the right direction.
Appreciate that. What about you, Kory? You got back from a vacation.
Yep, got back from vacation. Vacation was great. Yeah, in like 2 or 3 months, I think I went to 1, maybe 2 places that were not my house. I took drives and things, but I didn't go to any places.
Right.
So it was great to be in a different place. I had multiple moments where I just stood and looked at the ocean and held my arms out and closed my eyes and didn't care who else was on the beach. And
like a Laura Daigle video.
Yeah. I just took a big, deep breath, and it was good for the soul. The family really enjoyed. So we had my mom and stepdad down for the last half of it, or the second half of our time there in Topsail Island. And yeah, it was great. Not really much else to say. We really just enjoyed the time and needed the time away and made memories. And yeah, it was good. Found some shark teeth.
I saw that. You shared a picture of. I was astounded by how many shark teeth one could find. Like I thought it was like a treasure kind of thing. Like you're lucky if you find one. That's awesome. But you guys have like hundreds.
Yeah. So, Topsail Island, North Carolina is it's one of the best places on the East Coast to find shark teeth. There's a fossil layer off the coast, and so they wash up. So here's
wow.
This is like a couple trips worth. So this isn't all one
Still,
trip.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
He's got a mason jar like a third of the way full.
And so the cool thing is, if they're black like that, that means they're at least 10,000 years old. So
wow.
I drew this little diagram on a paper towel for my kids to say it went from the shark's mouth to the ocean to the beach. And our fun thing is I carry a Gatorade bottle with me, and when I find them, I put them in there in case I drop it. It doesn't, I don't lose it. And then the fun thing at the end of each day, it's our little ritual. When you're done with the pool and the ocean for the day, you bring in your Gatorade bottle, and then you turn it over on a paper towel on the counter in the condo, and we all look at what each other found, and we let them dry, and you kind of sort them because you can tell what species of shark they are. And then you move them from the paper towel to your paper plate. And the girls decorate their paper plate, and it's like, see who can get the most and the biggest one, and it's just a blast. There's nothing, in my opinion, there are few things more cathartic than, I mean, some people like their puzzles, and they'll set up a card table in their house, and they'll do their puzzles, and that's what they enjoy. For me, and I think our dad and stepmom were the first ones to really share this hobby with us. But it's just, you lose track of time, and you'll walk far down the beach, your back is getting fried, and you don't even care. You're just looking through shell piles to try to find little glossy black triangles. It's a blast. So good vacation, good time with family, made a lot of memories. And yeah.
Good. Do you want to share a Chick-fil-A story with us? Because I've been
the Chick-fil-A story pales in comparison to the Starbucks one that apparently I botched. My wife corrected me on the last episode, but I was just impressed by Chick-fil-A. So we're outside of Greensboro, North Carolina on the way down. And I haven't been to a lot of businesses. I don't know how people are doing things. Like, are you allowed to go in, but it's 50% capacity? Are places only drive-through? Like, I just didn't know how businesses are running, but we were hungry and a chicken sandwich sounded good. So we stop at this Chick-fil-A, and when you pull into the parking lot, there's a guy directing traffic, and what is apparently their normal drive-through line has 2 lanes. Okay, so, but both lanes are covered with a big, like, gas station flat shade, so you're not in the blazing sun. And so people are walking to your car with a little iPad or something, taking your order before the normal speaker. So they've clearly got this down to a system. So that's
that's a Chick-fil-A thing.
Yeah, so that's 2 lanes. Then in the regular parking lot, because people aren't parking to go in, they've turned that into an ad hoc drive-through as well with 2 additional lanes.
Wow.
Those people go up to the front doors where they have Chick-fil-A employees running back and forth with the big bins that you use to wash dishes with people's orders so they're not touching the food. And they're sprinting to and from the restaurant and giving those 2 lanes their food. And in the lane we were in, the regular drive-through lane, by the time you get up to the window, your food's basically already done. And if it's not, they ask you to pull forward all the way to the front so other cars who have smaller order. It was just this well-oiled machine. And I hadn't been anywhere for 3 months, and everything seemed fascinating. And I was just like, wow, they've got this down to a
We're
science.
in good shape. Let's leave her shut down. Man, we're figuring this out.
Yeah, I was just so impressed. And, you know, the Chick-fil-A employees are so nice, and they're like, thanks, y'all have a wonderful day. It was great having you. Like,
yeah.
So I was just impressed. I was like, wow, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
That is.
At a fast food establishment. I was just impressed. That was all.
Man.
Question in regards to Chick-fil-A. Have you had any of the other big, like, popular chicken sandwich chains around the country?
Some of them.
Is it the best for you? I haven't had any of them. I don't know, but other people talk, like, some people will say Chick-fil-A is overrated. Like, it's just a chicken sandwich. And my response is like, yeah, but it's really good for what it is. Like, it's not the best piece of chicken you'll ever have at any restaurant anywhere. But for being a fast food restaurant, it's really good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I've had some of the others. For me, it's up there. It's one of the best, yeah.
Okay.
I've had the Popeyes one.
Popeyes, yeah.
And it's, I mean, again, like, Popeyes and KFC are probably about the same, and they're better than what McDonald's will give you for a chicken sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But my humble opinion is that Chick-fil-A is still king.
I just don't think people are good at, like, appreciating things for what they are. And that always came up, you know, like the CC's Pizza Buffet. It's like $5. It used to be everywhere. I don't think they're in Columbus anymore. But anyone that would complain about CC's, I'm like, it's literally $5 for all you can eat pizza. Like, what kind of quality are you expecting? It's very good for $5.
Yes.
It's very average pizza against all pizza, and maybe even bad pizza.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like Little Caesars with their $5 hot, like Little Caesars, in my opinion, gets a lot of undue crap sent their way. Like my opinion for Little Caesars is like, I don't care. Like for me, it's not that it's good for $5. It's I like Little Caesars. Like if it were $15 and everyone else was $15, Little Caesars would still be in the rotation for me. Like I would still go there. But yeah, Little Caesars is very much the same way. It's a $5 large pizza. It's not. Where do you? What's the conversation? Like, what's your problem with that?
Yeah, for what it is, it's pretty darn good.
Right.
So we did get a handful of responses about. So right after Chick-fil-A was the Starbucks story from the last episode, and some people made me feel better about me breaking the chain of paying it forward in the drive-thru line. Kendall, your wife Amy shared with me an article that like actually that really annoys a lot of fast food employees, that whole process. It's great. People's intentions are great that they start it, but it kind of gets annoying to them, and they're making minimum wage and their computer can only hold so many orders, and now they have to remember what the last person's. It just there's more to it. And Dillon, you brought up a story about tipping etiquette, and I thought since people seem to enjoy the Starbucks story that maybe we could explore that a bit.
Okay, so I was going to bring that up next. I'm glad you segued for me. So I don't know where you both stand. In all normal times, COVID aside, here's a quick question. If you do carry out, do you tip at a sit-down restaurant on carry out? Not fast food, like a chain, national chain restaurant. You order online, you go pick up, you grab the bag, you walk out. Do you tip on that?
Yes. But it looks
depends.
different.
I generally don't. And I could be wrong because I've never worked in a restaurant like that, but I view tipping as if I'm sitting in a restaurant and somebody is waiting on me, that's what the tip is for. And if I'm just going to grab the food and I walk out with it, they're not waiting on me. I just paid my bill and took my food with me. It's basically fast food. I just walked into a building instead of driving my car up. Now, people that make minimum wage for servers could tell me I'm a horrible person, but when I go in and sit at a restaurant, I'm a very good tipper. I'm not fibbing just to make myself sound better. I'm totally fine taking care of people. It's not a cheap thing.
Pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah. Now, what came up was my wife and I ordered food from a national chain who was doing curbside delivery during COVID. We did it. We pulled up. They brought it outside. We had tipped online. And when they came out, they said, I tipped online there because I'm like, it's COVID. They can't have anyone in the restaurant. Let's tip them a little bit. And because they can't wait on anybody else. And they came out and said, did you want to add any additional tip? And I said, I think we already tipped online. And they said, do you want to add any more? I said, I don't think so. Thank you. Right. And then on the drive home, it made us start questioning, did we even tip? Like, now we're second guessing ourselves. We got home, we looked at the receipt, we did. It felt a little presumptuous, but I thought, okay, it's COVID, whatever. But then I'm thinking at the time, well, I'm certainly not going to take a receipt and like add more money and hand receipts and pens and, all that. So anyways, don't think much of it. Go back again. Now they can serve people inside. I do curbside again. I still did a tip this time because I thought, well, it's still probably harder than normal business. And they came out and they said, here's your food. I have this as your tip amount. Is that correct? same chain. And I thought, okay, this could be as simple as them just confirming the total. And I said, yes. And then I got a little bit of a, okay. And there's a tone there. There's a little bit of a tone there because I heard it. And it wasn't fake, and I heard it. And it wasn't a, oh, okay. It was a, okay.
Oh, man. Same place.
Same place. Same national chain. It's not a fast food restaurant. So I got my okay, and I didn't know how I felt about it. To be clear, I people might hate me for saying that traditionally, COVID aside, I don't tip on carry out. It's not a principled thing. Nobody's ever explained to me why. The only other explanation of why it makes sense is if somebody at a restaurant is normally a server, but they're stuck at a bar only doing carry out orders, they don't have a chance to get tips. But I've only ever heard that from one person at one particular restaurant. I don't know if that's true everywhere. So I'm sure people will want to rain fire down from above on me for this. But
there are more important things to worry about.
In these two particular instances, I did tip because of the nature of what was going on. I don't know that I cared for the responses or how I heard them, but it's not like I could call and say anything because the manager's just going to go, so let me get this straight. The person that brought out your food gave you your total, and you didn't like that they gave you your total to confirm it. I can't say anything, and frankly, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. I don't really care, other than it just felt a little passive aggressive, like I wasn't doing enough. And then it's like, well, I don't normally tip on carry out anyways.
Yeah, you're lucky you got anything.
Yeah, well, I can't say that, but it's like I understand the situation's tough, and I don't want to be insensitive. And so I'm already doing more than I normally would do. But then when it's looked down upon, that doesn't feel right. And so anyways, you can weigh in on all of that.
Most people make these kinds of complaints in their social media, but we have a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's right.
So sorry, but this is what you get.
No, I'm with you. Like I do tip in those situations.
Always have.
I always have. But I have sort of a bare minimum, and that's what I give them. So I don't do the percentage thing at all. Mm-hmm. I don't worry about the percentage for those situations. I give them what my base tip is. And that's the way how I personally handle it. That makes me feel good about myself, I suppose. I don't know. I could be like it, but I don't have an argument for it. Like I definitely see and hear and understand full well the argument for, like, you don't have to tip in those situations. And I get that. Like, you don't need to convince me. Like, I'm okay with that. So I don't think you were wrong.
The other part of that is like all the fast casual places now that have a tip line on the screen when you're checking out. Like, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus if I list multiple places, because a lot of them do it. But like Jersey Mike's and Firehouse Subs and those type of places where you like swipe your card or you put your thing and you have the tip option. And it's like, I'm coming in. I mean, you're making it, but I'm also paying for that. So everything else I'm doing. And again, this isn't like if I have a pizza delivered or I use DoorDash, I tip in those situations because I don't have to leave the house. So I tip my normal amount. This isn't that. This is a national chain. I walk in, grab my bag off the checkout counter and walk out. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so, or they bring it out like it's by the front door and they walk it out and hand it to you at your car window. That's what I'm talking about.
So in the past, I have not tipped in that situation because I'm dealing with you. I'm like, you're putting it in a bag and maybe throwing some ketchup packets in. Thank you, but like, But when I talk to Sherry, who worked in the restaurant industry for a long time, and she's been telling me this for years, you should tip in those situations. Now, if it's a pizza place or Chinese, for example, where you're running in, grabbing the bag and going, that's different than a place that has a separate counter and register just for curbside to go. Or like I'm thinking Applebee's, I'm thinking like one of our favorite places, BJ's Brew House. They have a host and hostess stand for everybody entering the restaurant. And then in another part of the front part of the store, they have a bench where people are waiting. They have other registers. They have people packing the food. She's like, in those places, for sure, tip. Normally 10%, but she's like, in the coronavirus situation, I would tip almost 20 because they're only allowed to have 50% capacity and they're hurting or whatever, especially if it's a mom and pop place and support small business. So one of our first orders for food during this whole situation was a local place, and it's a mom and pop place. It's really good. And I had every intention of tipping and totally fell into old patterns and did not tip. And this is like this, please, they've put out messages like, please support local, and I meant to and forgot. So to make up for it, I posted a picture of Sherry enjoying the food at our house, put a really nice review on their Facebook page, and then said, let this make up for it until I can come back and place another big order and make up for it and tip well. Okay, so to prepare for this episode, I consulted an expert in my wife who, like I said, worked at Damon's Grill for a really long time, and they were one of those places that did big carry-out orders. So here's what she informed me of, and maybe this will help all of us for future reference. Specific to the coronavirus situation, you've probably got new people in new roles. So if they're not allowing people in the restaurant, for example, and that guy's normal job is a bar runner, meaning he runs drinks from the bar to the tables, he's not doing that job, so they're just going to make him the carry-out guy. So part of the reason you could have got asked that question is because he's not used to it, and he's a new guy in a new role during this situation. The other part of it,
what they were doing.
The other part of it could be from the top down. They could have said, "Hey guys, people know we're hurting right now. Feel free to ask for extra tips because it doesn't hurt to ask." And they know 9 times out of 10, if they're going to ask, you'll get a little something extra. So if it wasn't a new person, I'm just imagining these franchises from the top down are just saying, doesn't hurt to say, "Hey, would you like to throw in a little something extra?"
Maybe give them a story.
The other thing is, in a regular non-coronavirus situation, I didn't realize this. Not all restaurants, but in a lot of restaurants, Sherry was saying the servers have to tip out to the busboys and to the runners. So they will give up, because they're making $2 an hour. They're not even making regular minimum wage. They're making server minimum wage. So they live on their tips. That doesn't mean they're hurting. A good server can make a significant amount of money, but they still have to tip out to the busboys, to the bar runners, to the runners. So Sherry will often ask when she goes to a curbside pickup place, "Hey, are you guys tipping out the runners?" Meaning, do you have to give part of your money to the guys that's job it is to take the ticket, put all the food in the bag, go? They ask for a side of mayonnaise and ketchup and au jus and all the salt and pepper and all the stuff. If they have to tip out to those guys, she'll give them a little extra because she knows they're not making all of that money. So I thought all of that was interesting and will probably change how I tip, or if I tip in the future, for those places that have that set aside separate takeout area.
It almost seems like the rule could be, if the restaurant has people that normally work in front of the counter as well as behind the counter, you should probably tip them. If it's a place like a sub shop where everyone works behind the counter, it's probably not a place you need to worry about that.
Because the other thing she told me was everybody logs in as a different role that night in a normal situation. So like if you log into this point of sale system as a runner, it changes your base rate of income, and then you can and cannot do certain other things in the point of sale system based on what you're logged in as.
Right.
So those people can't change. Like, it's not like they're also a server and also working at the bar. They log in as one thing for that night, and that's what they are for that night. And you're restricted on what you can and can't do from that cash register.
I would love to talk to a non-American about our tipping system, because I always like see anecdotal stories about how confusing it is because we're like the only place that does it this way. Other than if you go to a really fancy hotel, probably anywhere in the world, but like, and you're talking like the bellhop or like a butler or something like that. But I would love to talk, because how would, if we grew up here and we don't know, how in the world would somebody know who didn't grow up here?
Yes.
And just shows up and you're like, hey, you're supposed to tip people that make you food, and then you go get a sub. You're like, but not those people.
Right.
Like, I don't understand.
It's so true. And I've had European and Australian colleagues who they come here for work trips and I go there for work trips, and it works two ways, because then they'll tip here because they know we're supposed to tip here in some instances, but then they'll leave like $5 on the pillow of their hotel room every night in the US. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So then I feel guilty that they're leaving big tips on the hotel pillow. And I'm like, I do that at the end, maybe sometimes if they did a great job, but I don't do that every night. I don't do that every night.
All right. So Kendall is cheap with some things. This is good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I see the thing there that would make me want to tip in that situation is at a hotel is similar to at a restaurant. Is somebody coming out from behind the counter to do something for me? So as an example, if I went to a nice hotel and somebody came out with the luggage cart and put all my stuff on it and walked with me to the room and helped me take my bags off, then I might think I should probably tip them when I leave. But
right.
if I walk into the check-in counter and they're like, they slide me the plastic card key and you're like, thanks, let me know if you need anything. The luggage carts are over there. Well, then I'm never thinking about tipping somebody in a hotel in that situation.
Maybe I'm just ill-traveled, but it's never even crossed my mind to tip the service people at a hotel.
I mean, I've seen Home Alone too, so it has crossed my mind.
Well, so like I've done room service like literally twice in my life, and in those situations, yes, I tipped. I've never had anybody carry my luggage to my room before. Like I've never had butler service before, just at cleaning, and I've never. It's never even crossed my mind that like maybe people leave a tip for the cleaning crew.
I really want listeners to weigh in on this.
Yes, please.
Where do they tip? When, if you're comfortable saying how much or what percent, like, do you do flat rate? Like, I never know. Like, I always tip like pizza delivery as if it's a server at a table. So I just tip like, cause I don't know, like they're literally driving it to me. So I don't have to do anything. Where some people just do, like, I had an old boss that would say, I just put $2 on every pizza delivery.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, whether it's a one large or you're having a party with 10 large pizzas, he's like, yeah, I just put $2 on it.
So I've Googled this before, and you can look up like tipping etiquette in different parts of the world, right? Because it is confusing. And like if I go to the UK and tip like an American would tip here, they're like, whoa, no, you don't, like, it's almost too much. Like 20% on a food ticket is like, whoa, no, we don't do anything here. You don't have to do. But certain parts of the UK are becoming more westernized, and they are starting to tip. And so it's so confusing.
Yeah, I want to hear I want to hear stories. I want to hear interesting stories, like especially like if you know anything about the hotel industry, or what do you do at hotels, or like the pizza place, or like the kind of one-offs. I mean, if you're a server at a restaurant or have been, share your stories too. I'm not trying to avoid that. It's just that I feel like we all have the server friend who we've been out to eat with, and it was, and they're very forthcoming, and they're happy to share their, you know what, I used to serve at a restaurant, and so here's my opinion thing. It's like we've heard that, but like, man, there's questions about some of the other little details.
Another one that I didn't know, like when I'm in New York and I get a cab, do I tip the cab driver? There's the flat fare to take me from point A to point B. Am I supposed to tip on top of the overall cost? And then the thing about Uber at the beginning was, hey, Uber's so great. You don't have to tip anymore. It takes your credit card if you're on a work trip.
You are tipping anyways.
But the whole great thing about Uber is it's got your credit card. It'll just charge you for what the rate was, and then you just give a rating. And then they added a tip to that. So it was like, yeah, but the whole reason we liked you as an app, for those that did this more often than me, obviously, was that we didn't have to fuss with ones and twos in our wallet and just, I'm done with it. You got me here. Thanks. You did a great job. 5 stars. See you later.
Here's one that I have dealt with before that I never knew how to handle it. So I dress pretty casually most of the time. And there would be some nicer restaurants near places that I used to work that I'd go in for lunch, not dressed too casually, but on the more casual end of people that would go in. And there were times where I could just tell that a server was choosing to spend more time with people that looked like they would tip more than a young, casual dressed person. And so that's, in my mind, a little bit of a negative ding in regards to tip. And then on top of that, if the actual service wasn't that great on top of that, then I would want to tip on the little bit lower end. But then I'm like, but that just validates exactly what they were thinking, which is why so then I feel like, well, I got to tip them like 25% and then be surprised. And then maybe the next person that comes in like this won't be treated less because it was perceived that they would tip poorly. And then I would be stuck in this thing like, you don't deserve it because you didn't treat me very well, but I don't want to fulfill your expectations. And then you go, yep, he didn't tip me very well. That's why I didn't spend much time with him.
Yeah, you just perpetuated their story.
Yeah. So I would inevitably always end up tipping well as if they deserved it. And then they probably thought, great, I didn't have to do much on that table. And then I'm like, feels like
throwing 5s and 10s down on the table, just thinking, this man heaping these coals on your head, server.
Yeah, we need people to weigh in on all of those places. And mom and pop's coffee shop. Do you tip every time there? If you go in and walk up to a counter and then you grab your coffee from them and go sit down?
So here's a little fun behind the scenes thing. So we'll often talk about the level on which we're having conversations on this podcast. Like, are we being too heady and cerebral? That's rarely the case. Or is this way too far on one end of the spectrum of geekiness? Or, I like these little intricate, granular aspects of slice of life type conversations. It's very Larry David sort of like, what is the proper way to do social stuff? And the example I will often give you guys is people love this stuff. Pete and Sebastian, we talk about them regularly. They did a whole episode on tipping and tipping etiquette because Sebastian worked in the service industry at a hotel for a lot of years. So he talks about the difference between the bellboy and the concierge and and who to tip. Now, granted, he has loads of cash, and so it's easier for him perhaps to drop 100 on somebody than it might be for some of us. But they did a whole episode on tipping, and I was riveted. I'm like, this is so interesting. So we would love to hear from you and hope you enjoy the conversation.
I did not mean tipping to go this long, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
It is interesting and it is fun. And I think the cultural aspects of it, different parts of the world, it's really interesting. Anyway, that's really funny that you got that. Okay.
You can just hear, exactly what the tone means. It's like when kids learn how to use their tone in a way that you're like, what you just did. You said that in a way. And that's exactly what happened. It wasn't like, okay, great. It was okay. You just draw out the A-Y there on there. Okay. I'm like, you son of a... Anyway, let us know. Let me know if I'm cheap or wrong. If you know anybody who lives in another country, I'd love to hear from them on tipping and how confusing it might be.
Especially, I don't know anything about tipping etiquette in Syria.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from those folks.
Oh, that's funny. What else, guys?
Oh boy,
Yep.
that's about what I know.
We good? We gonna wrap this one?
I feel good.
I feel good. Tired. It's been a big week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my anniversary today. Happy anniversary, Amy.
Hey!
Yeah.
Happy anniversary, guys. Which number?
This is number 7.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
7th anniversary. Thank you. We both forget our anniversary every year. It's fun. It's cute. It's a little game we play every year. At some point, it's like, do you realize our anniversary is in 2 days?
Yeah.
Like, holy what? No, you're right. It's on my ring too. Like, it's written on my ring, on the outside of my ring, not even on.
Should we get food or carry out?
What do we do? So whatever.
You have money for
I figured out.
I'd love to do carry out. I just never know how much to tip.
Do you want to do carry out? No, that's too complicated.
Full circle. So many rules. I don't know what we're doing.
Let's just not. Let's just stay home. If we're either going to sit down in a restaurant, because we all know what to do with that, or we're staying home.
Sherry and I did our first restaurant visit in 3 months while we were on vacation. That was surreal.
Yeah.
Felt very bizarre.
Have you seen pictures of some restaurants putting like stuffed animals in like every other set of chair?
I love it.
Every other, yeah. That's
Of course, those have turned into heated debates on social media. Because nothing can't be a heated debate on social media. But I think it's hilarious. I love it.
What's the debate there? I haven't seen this.
If I walked in and I saw that, I would think there was something kinky going on there, and I'd turn around and leave. Or even just the very like, yeah, it's only because they're trying to save face having people sit too far away because the government, blah blah blah, something big brother, and
the fact that some
chemtrails
business owner who's trying to make money dare kowtow to the government and try to appease by creating some distance is offensive.
If that were my business, I would demand that people be sitting on each other's laps.
Yeah, I would also have a much simpler tipping system.
Well, this place just used blue painter's tape and put big red X's over certain tables
and
certain bar stools.
Yeah,
that's less fun. Do the mannequins tip?
Until somebody comes in and complains about the decor. This is weird in here.
But yeah, it was really weird.
What's the X mean? What's X supposed to mean? Sorry.
Taking Christ out of restaurant.
Starbucks cup all over again.
Almost every server had the mask only over their mouths. And then when they would go to the point of sale system to enter all the orders, they would take it completely off and let it just dangle on one ear and talk to each other with it off, and then put it back on the other side to go back to their table.
Yeah.
I think at that point they realize they've been around each other so much already, they might as well not even worry about it.
There's a good chance they're right. Yeah.
It's wild.
We're just stewing around each other anyway. What's the point at this point? It's like I feel like at that point you've just you've increased your germ and bacteria influence at that point when you're heading back to work. And I'm not a doctor and I don't claim to be one, and so don't take this as gospel. But that's my thought. That's where my head goes. It's like, when you decide you're going to go back into the workplace, the people that you sort of immediately and readily work around with on a regular basis, just realize that you had just your family of 3, 4, 5 people before. That was sort of like your germ influence. And then now it's not that you can't keep it away from them. So it's you still keep it controlled because you don't want your germ influence to be like hundreds of people. But just realize that your influence grew, that's what you did. And so with that being said, I would be as comfortable if I were in that situation, being a server at a restaurant, hanging around the kiosk with my mask off. I would be as comfortable with that as I would be showing up in the first place.
Yeah.
I think that's my thought. So I'm actually okay with that. I'm not. I mean, I do think it's silly that they're leaving their noses dangling out of their mask.
Yeah. But Lily, who listens, and she's 13, she has a phone that broke on the way back from vacation. And so she was getting no service error on the iPhone, and it's a known issue for that model of phone, blah, blah, blah. Android has way more issues. So my fifth place that I visited in the last 3 months was today at the Verizon store. And Sherry got a buy one, get one deal back in January on the iPhone 11. So I had an iPhone 11 just sitting in a box behind me. And I was like, if they can't fix this phone, I'm just going to take this unopened 11. And although it won't make us thrilled to know that, our daughter has a nicer phone than each of us, at least she'll have a phone because she's babysitting now, blah, blah, blah. She needs it. So point of the story, there's only 2 people at this franchise Verizon store. And I took a mask because I was like, I don't know if they're going to have it posted that they prefer people wear masks or not, or if they're going to have masks on. If they do, I'll put it on. If not, I'll probably just leave it in my pocket. I'll just kind of feel it out when I get there.
Yeah.
And 2 super amazing people at this Verizon store. And he was setting up her new phone, and she did need to use the 11. And so I'm talking to him, and I'm like, so have you guys what are you doing in here? 50% capacity? How are you? Did you close at any point? And he's like, we've been open this whole time. It's a franchise store. The owners can kind of do whatever they want. It's her and I in here all the time. I touch people's phones all day long. He's like, I figure. But yeah, he was like, we've been open this entire time. Literally nothing has changed for us. And we've been the 2 of us in this store all day, every day. And I figure if I don't have it by now, yeah, basically I feel like I've already had it.
Yeah.
Sharing germs in this small little pill box of a Verizon store. So
right.
Anyway,
cool.
Fun times.
Yep. Don't hang out in closets with strangers.
All right. Duly noted.
That's my advice.
Speaking of Lily, you guys may have noticed in the shared note that she has prepared a list of questions for us.
Yeah.
I think she's on episode 18, and she wants us to go through her list of questions at some point. So in the not too distant future, we'll have we'll tackle some of Lily's.
Dude, yeah, I'm way excited about that.
I think that could be a segment called Lily Asks from the Middle.
Maybe. Why is she only on? I thought girls her age were supposed to be way faster at consuming media than the rest of us. Why is she only on 18?
I know she had a whole long car trip.
Exactly. I've caught up on podcasts much faster than that, and my dad's not in any of those.
Oh my gosh, you guys. So on the way down to North Carolina, I drove. I like to do it all in one shot. And, it's fun to try to see how much time you can shave off your ETA.
Yeah.
At one point, the whole family is asleep in the van. And it's just me driving. And I don't like to listen to headphones while I'm driving. But I also don't want to play anything loud to wake everybody up. So I'm just alone with my thoughts driving through West Virginia or Virginia or whatever. And yeah. I get the idea to have one of my buddies on as a guest. And Dillon, Garrett. And I'm like, this dude, if we have him on, it's going to be one of the funniest episodes. Not to hype it up too much, and nothing against any one of our guests. but I'm thinking of our shared stories. And they're not just you had to be there stories. They're legit funny stories. So much so that I'm laughing out loud driving, just thinking about the conversations that we'll have when he's on. So I call him. And once Sherry had woken up, I call him. I'm like, hey, man, no pressure, but I would love to have you on our podcast as a guest sometime. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, just think about it. No pressure. But if you don't do it, I'll be really offended. I just think it would be really funny to have you on. And so he's like, what would we talk about? And I'm like, where do we start? So I just start going back. I'm crying, laughing, just talking to him about the stories we could share on here. So anyway, I think I've talked him into it, and he has a couple really good ones about me. I have a couple good ones about him. And the best part about Garrett is, and we'll get into it when he's on, but we've talked about the show An Idiot Abroad.
Uh-huh.
That something about putting that character, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Carl Pilkington.
Carl Pilkington. Something about plopping him in these situations where he's got his own, he's just kind of naive, and he's got his own prejudices a little bit. Not that Garrett does, but he's just kind of this naive guy who's not lived a lot of life. And you plop him in these situations and just watch it happen. And in many ways, that is my dear friend Garrett. And I think,
oh man.
So anyway, we've got a lot of ideas for topics. We've got a lot of ideas for guests. Thank you guys for joining us for episode 53. This has been really fun. It's good catching up with these guys, and it's good having you along for the ride. Please let us know your tipping stories. Were you a server? Did you work in the service industry? How do you tip? What are your thoughts on carry-out stations at fast food, not fast food, but sit downing type restaurants? Is Dillon cheap? Are we wrong? Let us know. Follow us on social media everywhere at From the Mid Pod. We will share some of the videos we referenced today on our Facebook page. That's at From the Mid Pod on Facebook. Thank you for listening. Have a great night. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Cilantro.
Cilantro.